Okay, so here we go with part 3 of our Introduction to LPS tutorial. Sorry, ERDAS Photogrammetry. I keep calling it LPS because it used to be called Leica Photogrammetry Suite. Right, in this section we now have our photos loaded and set up for their internal orientation, all the green lights across the board. Now we have to set up the external orientation, and the way we do that is we go to this tool, which is the control point locating tool, point measurement. We open it, we choose a classic point measurement tool. You can use the stereo one, which is good if you can figure out how it does things. It has a mind of its own, so in this case, to keep things simple, we'll use a classic point measurement tool. Okay, and you get this window. Basically what we have here is two images. We have 115 and 116, so they're adjoining images. And what we have to do is to place control points in place of a known location. And the way we do that is we have the full image here and here. We have a zoomed version here and an ultra zoomed version here. So we want to get a good spread of control points. So we'll start somewhere where we have a fairly recognizable area, and we'll find that on both images. So in this case the overlap is to about yeah, that should show up in the overlap. So we'll go to the same part on this image. There we go. So we've got the same area on both. Now to adjust the zoom, just click and drag in on, or drag out on these boxes, and whatever's inside this box will show in this window. Whatever inside this box will show in this window. Okay, so we'll go up here to, we've got some trees. Now, that's a classic example. You'll see that that tree, the canopy is here but the shadow is there. So it's a tad confusing. You really need to try and select points at ground level if you can, or use the stereo point measurement tool. What we'll do is we'll just drag this down a little bit, and we'll select this house, or yeah, maybe that point there where the road meets. So I'll do the same with this one. Go across to our little house, drag to there. We'll click add for a control point, so it selects a new column here. Select our point measuring create point tool, and we'll put a point there. Select it again, put the same point on this photo. Okay, so now I have our first control point on both photos matched. You'll see here that it's looking for an X, Y and Z coordinate. How we get that is to drag in our ArcGIS window again. I'll just resize that a tad so that you can see it all. Here's our same point on the ground in a spot 5 image. You can see that it's a lot more pixelated. And if I select the information tool and I click on the point that we've selected on our other images, it gives us a height value from the DEM that I have loaded, which is this file here, of 636.5 meters basically. And it gives us the X and Y coordinates down the bottom of the screen, which are in this case 314,494 and 671,0094. So I'll just pause that there and I will enter that information into our control point. Now just a moment. Okay, so you can see that I've now entered that X and Y reference and the height figure into our first control point. So now the system knows that this point on both those photos is at this location and at this height. So now we have to create another control point. What we'll do is we'll click add. Another control point is added to the file, and we'll drag this selection cursor to another point which is recognizable. Yeah, that should do. Match it up on this particular image. Okay, we'll select, say, this point here, which is at ground level and is easily found, and we'll go and find that on our ArcGIS installation. Okay, I found that on my ArcGIS installation, so I'll now plant my control point, and we might make it this one here, the edge of the road, in the centre of the driveway where the tree is. We'll do the same thing with this beastie. Okay, now we'll go and find that on our ArcGIS, and it's 314715, so I'll enter 314715. The Y value is 670.4765, 670.4765, and the Z value for that point is 689.6. 689.6. Registering your X and Y coordinates accurate to the nearest metre is more than adequate, and your Z value to the nearest 10 centimetres. You could make it to the nearest half metre if you wanted to, but to the nearest 10 centimetres is what I sort of default to. Anyhow, we now have 2 control points, and so I will continue to collect some control points for this job until I have between 8 and 12, until I think I've got a reasonably good coverage of the overlap area. Okay, now I've got a spread of control points. You can see that I've got 8 points. You can probably very vaguely see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points spread across this area of overlap of the photos. I'll just increase the size of this a bit. So if I drag it up there, you'll see that here are my control points. If I drag down, you'll see that there's a good spread of them across the image, and they're all at ground level, at intersections and so forth. Okay, so click Save. Good idea to click Save after you do every point anyway. Now, very important, we have to select all of these points. We have to set them as usage. Here we go. These have to be set to control points. Okay, why didn't that do it? Control. Try it again. Has a mind of its own. Okay. For some reason this is okay. Alright, so we've now discovered that you have to do full before you can do control. Okay, so basically I've told the computer that each of those we have full information for, and it is a control point. So we'll save again. Now, I won't do the automatic point matching process just yet, and then the triangulation, because I'll set up the matching points in the next photo. Before I do that, I'll do it all in one process. So we've now got 115 and 116 open. We'll open 117 in the first window. Okay, now we'll just drag this down here. Okay, and you'll see that this is now image 117, this is image 116. So now we have an overlap, if you like to think of it in sequence of flight from east to west. The same image, same part of this image over here will line up with the same part of this image here. You'll see that there's a matching area here, the right hand side of this image, left hand side of that image, whereas before we had 115 and 116, which was the opposite the direction of flight. So it's a little bit more logical this way. So if we increase the size of that a little bit and do the same here and go up the top, we'll see that we actually have, the same areas showing up in each image. Now we'll find our little selection box, we'll go to a recognisable point, and on this fellow it's going to be over, it's going to be off the edge of the photo. Well, that's really handy. Alright, we'll just take this one then. Okay, there we have our matched up point, and we will do the same process as what we did before. Now we've got two new images selected, we can keep adding control points, and we can actually share control points from one to the next. For example, if I wanted to go to point 1, I'll just click on point 1 here, and that jumps to point 1 here. If that's on the same, as also shown on this photo, I can use the same point to match them up. In this case it is, so we'll do that just to make it a bit more logical for you. Where's our point? Somewhere up here. There he is. So what we can do now is to hit our control point placement tool and also select the same point on this image as we have on the others. It will now match up as control point 1 because we've selected one. Here's our selector. Okay, this is the point we collected on our first image and our second image, and now we've actually collected it on our third image, so it's on all three images. Okay, so it's a common control point. You'll probably find that if we drag this down a little bit, point 2 will be as well. So we'll collect point 2 and we'll see if we can find him as well. It looks like there he is. So we've selected 2. We'll select our tool to drop the control point. We'll drop him in the same place. I'll just actually zoom that a little bit to make sure that he's nice and tight. Okay, just reposition him a little bit. I'll go back and check 1 as well. That looks a bit too far south. That's probably a little, maybe a little bit to the east. That's better. Okay, so that's close. Alright, so now we've got 2 common control points. Shall we try for 3? No, 3 is going to be off the edge. Okay, so we've got 2 common control points to start with. Now we can go on and collect some more control points that are common to this stereo overlap and do the same process as we did before. So I'll just pause this until I get that done. Okay, I've now collected 14 points in total, and I'll have to just set these up as full and control, as we've already done. Do a save. I've got a good spread of control points across the image. Now, having given the system the control points, we needed to run automatic point matching, and we'll just check the strategy and make sure that we avoid shadow, and that's basically the only thing we have to worry about with these images. That's not a default. So okay, and we'll run the automatic point matching. Now this automatic type point generation basically puts extra points based upon our control points that match up across the photo. It gives us a summary. Okay, we won't worry about analysing this at the moment. I'll just close that, and you'll see that there's a lot of extra points have now been placed across the image to match up with each photo. Now we will do our triangulation properties. Basically we have to make sure that no automatic blunder checking is in place, and I think we can accept the defaults from memory for all of these. Yep, okay. and we'll run the triangulation. It's giving us a total RMSE of 1.56 meters because our measurements are all in meters, and 1.56 is fantastic. That's excellent. Anything less than probably 5 meters is fine. So we'll accept that. We'll close that. We'll save that. And we'll close that. And here's our images now set up in space. We'll do a save. Our job is now complete. You'll see that we have the control points, which are the triangles, spread across the images. We'll have our generated points, which are the squares, spread across our images. We have internal and external orientation all in place. Now, we can also generate ortho images from this process as well. And I may just have a quick break, and I might make that an extra section, or I might include it at the end of this particular part of the process. Actually, I will include it as the next part of the process, and I'll also show you how this information is pulled into ArcGIS as part of the same step. So at that point I'll conclude this tutorial and we'll go on with it in the next.